Mike Anderson. I'm here to interview some rock and roll, Berks County Rock and Roll Hall of Fame people. Tell you a little bit what it was like being a rock star in Berks County. With us today we have Jan Gyomber. Gyomber, I'm sorry. See, I knew I got it wrong. Jan's a local drummer and other things. So let's talk about it. Are you living in Berks County right now?
Yeah, I still am. I've spent most of my life here. Moved to Schuylkill County for about a year, but otherwise I've been local.
And I said you're playing, you're a drummer. Has that always been what you've played?
Well, I started out, my dad tried to teach me to play the organ.
Oh, yeah.
He was a semi-pro, weekend guy. In fact, he did a lot of 78 records and stuff. Jules Gyomber and his orchestra.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In fact, he did a song called In Old Mount Penn for the 75th anniversary. They hired him to write a theme song for it.
Wow.
But yeah, he tried to teach me how to play a Hammond organ, and it didn't connect for me. But my brothers both learned how to play, and he said, "Well, you can play any instrument you want."
Uh-huh.
And I said, "I want to play drums." And he said, "No, a musical instrument."
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So.
Ooh.
And I said, "No, I want to play drums." And he said, "All drummers are crazy."
There you go.
Like,
I've worked with drummers that maybe fell into that category, but not you, of course.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Anyway, I said, "No, I really want to play drums." And he bought me a trumpet.
Oh, good. Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was really insistent upon staying away from the drums, as it were.
Yeah, so, I played trumpet for a while in an elementary school band and stuff, but it never really connected for me.
Uh-huh.
And I eventually started, the good thing about that was I started to learn how to play music, so I at least knew what, whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, rests were.
Yeah, that's good.
And I got myself a pair of drumsticks and a beginning book for drumming and started tap, 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 tap.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the great part was I didn't have a drum.
Oh, yeah? What'd you use? Tin can?
I had a desk.
Oh,
Which
whatever works.
my parents were thrilled.
You got a new desk every year.
Well, no, but they did eventually get me a snare drum because they got tired of hearing the tap, 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 and seeing the dents in the desk.
Yeah.
So eventually I did get to play drums, but I started by teaching myself first.
What about inspirations? What drummers inspired you to play?
It wasn't specifically drummers, but as I got older and I was really interested in music, one of the things that did happen is I got a chance to go to my first big concert. When I was in 10th grade, my biology teacher, Mr. Bill Orr, said, "Hey, who wants to go see Janis Joplin?"
Whoa.
I said, "Yeah, I want to do that." And he put together a trip for 30 people to go to the Spectrum, which was brand new in Philadelphia, to see the first Quaker City Rock Festival. And Janis Joplin and Big Brother and the Holding Company were one of the bands. Headliner was Vanilla Fudge, was also the Chambers Brothers, Moby Grape, and oh my God, and Buddy Guy was the opening act.
Wow.
And it was like, that was inspiring, okay?
Yeah.
Just to see, big time rock and roll. And Janis Joplin was at her peak at the time, and it was very impressive. And a few months later, got to see Jimi Hendrix at the Spectrum. And his drummer, Mitch Mitchell, fantastic drummer. Yeah. Although I got to tell you, we couldn't hear him at all because the guitar was so loud that you didn't hear the rest of the band unless Jimmy stopped playing for a moment. Then all of a sudden you realize, no, the drums and the bass are really loud.
Wow, yeah. Wow.
But those were very inspiring. And one friend of mine from high school had an older brother that played guitar in a band called the Globe Theater.
Oh, yeah.
From around here. Yeah. Ended up going to Temple, came home from college and said, "You guys got to listen to these records." And he had Jimi Hendrix's first album, and he had Cream Disraeli Gears, right? And it was like, wow, this is really different. And I mentioned that my brother was in a band. They played all, Louie, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I took that to them. They learned Purple Haze and Sunshine of Your Love. The bass player's dad was an electrical engineer, built a distortion pedal.
Wow.
And
From
they played Purple Haze the first time, and everybody just like went,
Yeah.
what
that was
heck
revolutionary at the time.
And in fact, so they did Purple Haze and Sunshine of Your Love, and they all of a sudden got way more popular. They came back to me, and they went, do you have any more music like this that we can learn?
Yeah.
And at the time, pre-Inagata Davida, there was the first Iron Butterfly album, and they learned some songs from that, which made my brother happy because they were organ.
Could you play the solo
or-
Inagata
or-
Davida?
I did. In fact, one time
Sorry to
I
interrupt
played
you.
that with a band, and they blew the fuses with the lights, and it's like, keep playing, keep playing until we get the lights working, right?
There you go.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So what was funny is then my brother's band, they started calling me Psychedelic Jan because like, what is this music called? And they call it psychedelic, and they're like, oh yeah, Psychedelic Jan.
I got to call you that in the future.
No, wait. Then they shortened it to just Psycho. And my friends
That's
heard them
closer to the-
heard them call me Psycho, and then that became my nickname.
See,
And
now we know.
But just so you understand, it's like the way they call a big fat guy tiny, because my friends all thought that I was like the most level-headed.
Yeah.
So they enjoyed calling me
All right,
Psycho.
all right.
I'm level-headed, Mike.
Good story.
Okay.
You had an influence? I mean, what made you want to play drums?
You know, I have no idea. I can't think of any particular drummer or anything that I saw that made me go, yeah, that's what I want to do.
You just liked the rhythm.
I just liked it, you know.
Yeah.
So that went from there.
So you started playing drums. You mastered the drums at an early age, and you started playing in local bands. Is that when?
Yeah,
what was
well-
the first band experience you had?
My first band experience, I didn't play in the band. My older brother was playing keyboards in a band in high school. They eventually settled on the name of This Side Up by looking at a box that was on the floor, you know. But he, by that time, was pretty good at the keyboards, and they rehearsed at our house, and it was pretty funny. They were like a jock band. You know, he was...
It's a jock band.
Well, he was on the football team. He was all-county football player.
From where
Their bass player was high school president of their class and captain of the wrestling team. The lead singer was co-captain of the wrestling team. The guitar player was a guy named John Yoakum. You might know who he was. He eventually became the football coach at Muhlenberg.
Okay. Yeah.
So these guys were all football players, wrestlers,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And they played a lot of stuff like, well, they had to play Louie because everybody
Oh, yeah.
did in the
We did,
mid-'60s.
yeah.
But they did stuff by the Animals and, you know, a lot of the standard hits of that time. And they rehearsed at my house. And they had the drummer was a guy named Mark Walsh, who he was the president of my class. I was 2 years younger than my brother. So these were all, and he was captain of the basketball team.
What period of time are we talking
We were
about?
talking about late 60s
Late
here.
60s, okay.
And so I just sat there while they rehearsed, and I watched what he did, and on my own time tried to copy what he was doing. Now, the thing is, I didn't realize it at the time, but he was a really simple drummer.
Well, that's good.
Which really benefited me
Oh, yeah.
because I could practice what he was playing. Also, it made me focus on just keeping the beat
Right.
and not doing too much fancy stuff.
Yeah, that's good.
So that was my first experience. And after a while, they let me rehearse with them, two drummers.
Wow.
And it was basically, as long as you don't mess us up, you can rehearse with us.
So you learn by experience. with
And I was really careful not to start throwing too much stuff in and messing them up.
yeah, it's good. Discipline, I guess. You know.
And eventually, I tried to get a band together. We tried with different guys I met in high school. A guy named Bert went by Jinx. Almost everybody knew him as Jinx. Was a really good bass player, and we just kept trying different guitar players. And something would always go wrong. But he and I got really good at playing together.
Mm-hmm.
It got to where we could almost read each other's mind. We could jam, and we could always know where the other guy was going.
It's good.
But it never quite gelled. And then one day, I was practicing in my bedroom. I took a break, and I hear the doorbell going ding, 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 ding.
Is it the police?
Well, that's what I was thinking. And I go down, and it's a guy who just had recently moved into our neighborhood that played guitar and bass, heard me drumming, and said, I have a band, and we have a gig, and our drummer can't make it.
Whoa.
Will you play?
That's it.
And I went,
Fate stepped in.
and I was like, when is it? He said that in 2 days.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can learn Louis.
You want to come
in 2 days?
You want to come and rehearse with us?
Yeah.
And it was a little bit more than Louis. In fact, there was like Jeff Beck songs and stuff like that.
Yeah. Nice.
But I was able to pull it off, and we went, and it was played at a playground festival.
I was going to say, where do you
like
play
that
back in those days?
But it went pretty well, and it was funny because talking to the crowd between songs, he kept apologizing that they didn't have their regular drummer.
Oh, that's...
And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, well,
So
whatever.
everybody's looking at you.
And since I didn't really know all the songs, I just overplayed.
Oh, yeah.
But at the end, everybody came up and said, wow, your drummer's really good.
There you go.
He got upset because everybody was like,
You should
"Oh,
be
that's a
happy.
great drummer."
Yeah.
Anyway.
So you didn't go with that band permanently?
No, I just filled in one time. But that was my first performance playing live, and got paid like, I don't know, $10.
Yeah.
Something
So
like
when you
that.
got with the regular band, what kind of places did you play? Did you play local clubs or
Now,
local?
that actually happened because I met Linda and Emily Holt, the Holt twins.
Yes.
They went to the same high school I did at Wilson. They graduated a year after me, but we both went to Reading Area Community College, and I got to know them a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
They were playing mostly folk music. We got to be friends, and I actually convinced them they should try joining a rock band. And we started trying to put a rock band together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when they started playing a little bit more rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
They got a gig. Somebody hired them to go out on the road and play lounge music out in the Midwest. I kept trying to put a rock band together that didn't quite happen, but stayed in touch with them. And at some point they got in contact with me and said, hey, we're going to quit this band. We want to put a rock band together. Are you willing to go out on the road playing drums? So I played one gig at a playground, and my second gig that I played professionally was on the road.
Wow.
We rehearsed for a while, and we went out. They had an agent out in the Midwest, and we played, I would call it lounge rock.
Mm-hmm.
We were playing Holiday Inns, Ramada Inns, and it was 6 nights a week. You go, move in, stay at the hotel, play in the lounge. Sunday you had off, and you drove to wherever the next place was. So that was a really,
That's
into
quite an
the
experience,
deep end.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you went right from, one little local gig right into the deep end, so to speak.
Yeah, and I was doing warehouse work or something like that, and it's like,
so
do you want to be a professional musician instead?
So musicians, were musicians making money at that time? I mean, as far as to live on? Or?
It was a big jump up from the $10 I got at the playground.
Okay, yeah, well, that's a big jump.
And
but it was enough for you to
we
survive
were making enough money. I think I was actually making more money than I was at my day job.
Oh, that's great.
All right?
Yeah.
We were making a couple $100 a week, and our room and board was taken care of. A lot of the places, even some of our meals were paid for.
Nice.
So I wasn't getting rich, but...
Are you still playing drums now? I mean...
Not really.
Not really.
Not
Okay,
really.
well, we'll get into that.
Occasionally I fool around a little bit.
Talking about real jobs, at some point you had a real job with Fred's Music Shop locally. You were sound... You were kind of in charge of the sound gear, weren't you?
I was running the rental department.
Okay.
And I was rental manager and repair manager. And a lot of what we rented was sound gear. Most people had their own instruments,
right.
But they put a band together, and they, who has the PA system?
Okay,
well,
no. Nobody wants to buy
the PA
it.
systems.
Yeah. Nobody wants to carry it around either.
And well, in the meantime, I had some other gigs. You know, that band broke up. I moved back to Reading. Later, put another band together with the whole Twins. And then it was in the early '80s. That was like when the club scene was big and real exploded, the rock club. But then you also needed big PA.
Yeah.
And you know, now it was like stacks of PA.
Oh.
But when they had put together a band. I was working a day job where I had to travel, but they put together a band with another drummer, Kevin Arts, who was a great drummer. And I went to see him, and I said, you know what, your band is really good, but your sound sucks. You know, you need to do something about what it sounds like out front.
Yeah.
And so I started doing sound for them. And then I was doing that for a while, and they wanted to supplement the band. They wanted the band to be bigger, and they couldn't find the right person to add to the band. And they finally said, hey, Jan, how about this? We need more male vocals. And that's not you.
Again, what?
Okay. But Kevin's a good singer, but there's a lot of songs that are hard for him to sing and play drums at the same time.
Yeah.
And said, but if you would play drums during those songs, he could get out and front the band and sing. So I started doing that. So I was doing sound for them and then playing drums in a few songs here and there. And they started adding more and more of those. Yeah. And then they came to me one time and said, well, you play guitar a little bit, right?
Oh, no.
And I said, well, yeah, a little bit. And they said, well, we need a second guitar part in this song. You could play that, right? So I started playing guitar in some of the songs. And then they went, hey, you should play guitar in this song too. And in this song. Now, here's the thing. Real simple guitar. I knew how to play bar chords and some easy guitars. Richie Artica was a good guitar player. And I just went to him. Every song, it was like, Richie, what do I do in this song?
Wow,
you know,
great.
and he would teach me the part.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't really know how to play guitar. I know how to play specific songs, right?
Yeah.
But my part was easy enough in most of these things that when on stage, it was like...
There is.
And I started...
Versatile jam
One of my favorite bands to listen to is The Who. I saw them many times in concerts. Yeah. So I started windmill chords, right?
Yeah.
And you know, the other people in the band were like, what's he doing back there?
You're playing Kumbaya and you're doing...
Well, what was funny is we were playing more hard rock songs by that time, and the other people in the band are like going, what's going on? Because the crowd was responding and they didn't know what was happening. And they turned around and saw me doing the windmills and they went, do more of that.
Oh,
you know.
So
and also
you're a choreographer too.
Part of my job was, choreography, was also get the rest of the band. Because they all played, but they were barely paying attention to the audience.
Sure.
You know?
You need to put on a little show.
So it was like, and if they were like too... I'd go over and I'd literally kick them in the butt.
Yeah, that's all right.
And then it started to get a little bit more active, and we started to get more gigs. We started getting bigger gigs, and we started playing more and more. And they went, we don't want you to be our sound man anymore. I was like, what? Am I being fired? It's like, no. We want you to be playing guitar. We want you on stage all the time.
My goodness.
We're going to hire another sound man.
Your dad would be happy that you weren't playing drums.
Right. Hey, I got to tell you, I'll go back to that. At one point, I was playing drums. I'm practicing upstairs in my bedroom. I usually do it when nobody's home, right? I came down after pounding on my drums as hard as I could for a couple hours. I go downstairs, and in our family room, right below my bedroom, there's my dad, sound asleep on the couch. I went down and I walked in there, and he woke up. He said, oh, you stopped. I said, you were sleeping while I was playing drums? He goes, yeah. He says, you are now good enough that it doesn't disturb me anymore.
Oh,
he said,
well, that's a compliment.
It used to be like I could hear, when the rhythms weren't right or it staggered a little bit. It goes, no, I could sleep. I said, you're going deaf, aren't you?
No.
Anyway,
no, that's,
at some point,
it's a compliment. But
he actually asked me to sit and jam with him as he played the organ.
Nice.
And I played drums.
See, it comes full circle here.
So he was pretty happy. And I got to tell you, before I went on the road with the band, I was still living at my parents' house. I actually went to talk to him and said, how would you feel if I like quit my job and went on the road with a band? And he said, you should definitely do it. He said, because if you don't, later in life, you will always be thinking, what if? And I think he was talking from his own experience.
That's a good advice.
You know, that he never went full time.
Yeah.
So, you know, so I think he was pretty happy that I was able to do it and do that.
Perfect. Now, I want to go back to your other job, behind the scenes, working with musicians that would come in. You saw other bands developing, and any other opinions from the other side of the business?
Well, it was always interesting, but you know, one of the things I found that there were a lot of people who are really good musicians. Some people are excellent musicians, other ones are good performers, and there's also people who could play really well but didn't understand the technical bits about their equipment, especially when you're playing like guitars and stuff, you know, and amplifiers, understanding how to get the sound that you want and what the different knobs actually do and how it comes out.
Yeah.
And then especially bands, just like the band that I ended up in, it's like, wow, you guys play really well, but out front of the audience, you don't sound good because, you know, you have too much treble, too much bass, too much echo, something like that. So one of the things that happened is I worked with a lot of guys. When they rented equipment, I gave them quick courses in how to use it. Yeah. And eventually Fred had me also giving seminars on how to do sound.
Nice.
So a lot of people, a lot of the bands, I mean, we used to get 40, 50, 60 people come in for these seminars, just like the basics of how to make it work.
Sure.
How to not get screaming feedback. Yeah. How to mic a bass drum so that, and I used to do these demonstrations, like I've done these already in live situations. I said, watch, I'll get more people on the dance floor. Turn the bass drum up just a little bit. People would jump up. I said, look, I'm going to make them sit back down. Turn the bass drum back down again. It's like, if you can make that work right, you understand that you can make it work.
Very nice. So your other job that I know you from is teaching Tai Chi.
Yes.
To a lot of people, some of us older folks like myself.
He's now one of my students.
I'm now one of my older students, one of your older students. But anyway.
Oh, and he's doing great.
I mean, sure he is. Anyway, I mean, how does this relate to music to you? Does it?
Well, it does very much so. And I started to notice that the more I was getting into martial arts, that a lot of my friends that were good musicians were also martial artists. And most of my friends that were really good martial artists also were musicians. Like my two main teachers right now, one of them plays classical guitar, the other one plays the harp. Now,
a harp, real harp?
I mean a real harp, not a blues harp.
Right.
Okay. By the way, I can play that a little bit too. All right. But my teacher's teacher is a very famous guy. He's one of the highest ranking guys. He's often the head judge at world championships for Chinese martial arts. He lives in Britain, but I've got to meet him. He's come over to visit a few times. And in a discussion, as a sidelight, he loves imported beer, but he's from Britain. To him, you know what imported beer is? Rolling Rock.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Yeah.
So I could get on his good side, buy him some Rolling Rock.
I hardly think it's important.
Anyway, but I mentioned this to him. I said, I noticed a lot of the good martial artists are also good musicians and vice versa. And he mentioned, he said, well, he's not a musician, but he's noticed the same thing. And he said he believes that the reason is if somebody starts in martial arts and they're already a musician, they understand that it takes time and effort. You've heard the term Kung Fu.
All right.
Kung Fu actually means not martial arts. It literally means time and effort, or effort over time. In other words, putting the time in to get good at something.
Sure.
So he says, musicians understand. It's not, oh, I want to play the guitar, because we've run into this a lot. At Fred's Music, they have lessons there. You know, most kids, they want to be able to play. They don't want to have to learn how to play.
Right.
All right? Same thing in martial arts. Oh, yeah, I want to be a martial arts expert. Okay, well, these are the drills you have to do.
Sure.
It's like, oh, I don't want to do the drills. I want to do martial arts. So the same kind of a little bit of discipline and understanding that it takes time and it takes work to get good at either one of them. You know.
That's good advice. I mean, I would ask you at the end of an interview, what advice do you have for up and coming musicians? But that's a good,
it's
good way to start.
be willing to put the time in.
Yeah.
is really it. No doubt about it.
Well, it was great to have you here, and we hope to see you playing in the future as well. And thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks for being
And
a part of
whoever's watching.
And thanks for
See
being
you
part
later.
of the Berks County Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Thank you.